What's going on? All right. Let's talk about SEO versus ads and talk a little bit about just ads, how they work generally, SEO, how it works, how it compares, right? What's really happening here? How are these similarly aligned, right? And where is the benefit of ads? And I don't want to talk about any specific ad. I want to talk about LSA ads, Google ads, and Facebook ads, and talk about that with relation to SEO, local SEO, and I'm talking mostly Google Maps SEO and local businesses. So I think this is a really interesting conversation because there's really no one right answer. And the problem is, right, that we've grouped all of these local businesses into one, right, one package, which is called local businesses. And I know for me, getting a local business to rank on Google Maps is a similar process. But when it comes down to the actual business itself, these businesses are vastly different. And I think we can break all of our businesses up into basically three different categories of local businesses. One is quick solution, high ticket or higher ticket, right? This is your roofing, right? Gutters, maybe a plumber, right? So it's like, I need a service, I need it now, and it's probably going to cost me a decent amount of money, right? So that's bucket number one. And I'm not going to probably need you next week again, right? So that's bucket number one. Bucket number two is I need somebody, and it's higher ticket, very high ticket, right? And I want to make sure I choose the right person, okay? And then there's bucket three, which is like, okay, that's like painters, a home builder, right? Construction, a pool installers, right? Things that are a lot more money and it's more of a process, right? And I think painters are kind of at the bottom of that, but I still think they're included in that. Basically anything where it's like 10K or more, I would say. And then we have over here in our last bucket, which is like, I need somebody, I'm going to need them consistently to come in. I might not pay a lot right now, but over time, I'm going to be worth a lot of money to somebody. This is like chiropractors, dentists, right? Pool cleaners, maybe. I mean, that's not a great one, but this is more your, even like carpet cleaners, right? Something that's going to be more recurring, right? Where you're going to get a customer. Yeah, I think pool cleaner probably is in there. I don't know a lot about pool cleaning, but where somebody's going to come in and they're going to be a customer. And if you do a good job, they might be a customer for life, and they're going to consistently need you in a predictable way. Now, in the first bucket, I want to really quick throw out that there's kind of a range in there, which I'll talk about. But there's people who cost, there's people whose average ticket is, $250, $300, $400. Maybe that's a bad way to look at it. Maybe this is just their problem of needing to raise their average tickets. But I think there's people who have this low average ticket. And maybe those are in the same. I hadn't really considered that, but now that I'm thinking about that and from some recent conversations, I think maybe that's the key. So, okay. So like a massage place probably isn't going to get you to pay $1,000, right? So I kind of got to stand by this. So this first bucket then kind of needs to be divided up. But realistically, at the end of the day, everything that we're talking about, this all boils down to one number: lifetime customer value. And not very many people take the time to figure out what their lifetime customer value is, especially when you're in something recurring, like a dentist or a chiropractor or a massage spa. You need to know what your lifetime customer value is. How many customers come to you multiple times? What's the average number of times somebody comes to you? How much do they spend? How much do they typically spend over their lifetime? Because that's how you know how to boil all this down. So whatever, if you're a roofer or a gutter company, you probably have an average ticket. It might not change. That's probably is your lifetime value, right? At least for, 30 years, 15 years. So your average ticket kind of lines up directly with that number. Same with these kind of bigger jobs, right? So with that, a lot of information, really this is where ads, especially Google ads, right? And Google LSA ads are going to get their cost from. And it's not because they are choosing this, but because this is how the market works. The market will always dictate how much a lead is worth based on the competitors in your area who are closing the highest average ticket or lifetime value per customer and willing to pay a certain amount. So if your average ticket is $1,000, maybe the best companies in your area are willing to pay $100 per lead or $50 per lead, right? And they know they're going to close 50%, let's say 40% of all the leads that come through. So this is what the market is going to do. Now, where this can get absurd is on Google Ads. So let me start first with Google Ads because I think it's a more predictable, or I guess it's a more obvious place to start. And Google Ads can be very difficult. It's very complex, okay? And Google Ads is going to be keyword based. And so things like your offer will matter, but maybe not as much as somewhere on Facebook. And so it kind of sits in this middle, right? People searching for a service or keywords and people who want an offer to draw them in. So Google Ads, I would say, has gotten to the point, at least from what I see, where you're not going to get a lead for under $100 anywhere unless you're in some crazy niche. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about home services. You're not likely to get leads for under $100. So if you can't make at least $1,000 average ticket, maybe $1,500 average ticket, that's where I would say you're probably not a good candidate for Google Ads. So that's that. Let's just get that out of the way. Now let's talk about the cost of Google Ads. What are you doing? Google Ads is showing up at the top of search, right? You're paying to show up at the top of search. So in relation to SEO, Google Ads is paying to be where other people are getting through their SEO, right? And with Google Ads, you pay every time someone clicks, whereas with SEO, you pay to get to the top or you pay to move towards the top. And as you do, you're going to get more of those leads because you're just going to show up, right? Google wants to show the best businesses or the best SEO'd companies. And if you are, then you get those clicks. And you can literally measure how much money it's worth to you in the amount of clicks and calls and deals. So that's Google Ads. I think it's very difficult. Google Ads is the most expensive place to get leads, and you have to be really, really good to make good money there. And seasonally, it's going to be more expensive when things are slow, and it's going to be cheaper when you're in your positive season. So that's Google Ads. Now we have LSA ads. LSA ads are similar to Google Ads, but you don't have to pick keywords. So LSA ads, I find they're cheaper, they're more targeted, they're less work, and typically customers spend less though. So for some reason, they're not as good of customers. But that being said, a lot of businesses can do really well with LSAs. In fact, I always say the order of operations here is do LSAs so you can fund SEO, so you can do that for a long time and then start Google Ads once that's all working, or when you're at least you have the money coming from LSA and some SEO that you can invest into Google Ads. But I would rarely ever start with Google Ads. It's too much risk and it requires too much perfection and testing. And that perfection is not in just running the ads, but in selling, in getting estimates, like the whole funnel. So that's LSAs. LSAs I'm finding are typically half of the cost for most businesses of Google Ads. Now, once again, I just want to say it means nothing. None of these numbers mean anything except for compared to your lifetime value of your customer. Because if it costs you $400 to get a sale on Google Ads and $200 to get a sale on local service ads, and your average ticket is $10,000, well, then who cares, right? So it's always in comparison. I would always be doing every marketing channel that makes me money, right? So that's LSAs. So LSAs, Google Ads, LSAs are going to be a little bit cheaper. Maybe people spend less. These are all things you can track, right? But are a great place to start for businesses. Now let's go into Facebook and let me talk about where I think Facebook has some real value. One, Facebook is going to be so much more related to your offer. This is where offers come in. And I think Facebook is the best testing ground that you can use to figure out what people really respond to, because you can go test your offers. Even if you didn't get business from Facebook, but you could figure out a way to get people excited and to take action, you can use that to run your Google Ads or even on your website, right? In your SEO and everything else as really good data to try to drive your business forward with offers. Offers are so undervalued by businesses, right? They're so undervalued. But Facebook gives you this amazing platform to go and test 10 offers, 20 offers. You don't have to be an offer genius. You just have to be thorough and test them. So I think that's where Facebook comes in. And then look, you can get good leads from Facebook. You can get cheap leads or good priced leads from Facebook. They're cheaper for a reason. You have to follow up more. You have to work them harder. And Facebook ads, I would say, are probably a little bit cheaper than the LSAs per lead. But as you can see here, right, in a really well-functioning business, all of these numbers are actually perfectly balanced. A Google lead is more targeted, better, and if you can sell them, spends more. An LSA lead is going to be less targeted, so it's cheaper and may spend a little less, right? And a Facebook lead is going to be more difficult to close, take more time, less of them will close, but whatever they spend, right? It's all in relation, right? Every single service when it comes to ads is priced based on your area, based on your competition, and based on your competitors who can spend more, spend the most. The top competitors in your area who can spend the most money to get a client, because they will get the most money on average from a client to make it worth it. So it's science. It's science. The only place I would say that, once again, my caveat is if you have really low average tickets. But once again, and you can always go check. I find rarely do I see massage spas spending money, right, on Google Ads specifically. So I think that just says something, but that's maybe a topic for another time. So with all that, this is where you can not only price out SEO, but you can also get an idea of why SEO is so powerful. Because if you can put in the effort with SEO, you're going to get a better quality customer because they're just going to come to you. They see you more, they learn about you more. People over time start coming to you specifically. And with SEO, you show up, your impression. People see you, people learn your name, right? Now you have people coming to you. You also are getting people who are going to click and then come back and click and come back and click and who are thinking and doing these searches, right? So you get more interaction with somebody through the process. And I just find they tend to spend as much as a Google ad, right? So they spend more money generally on average, better customers, and it's typically a third of the cost. That's where I have seen this pan out. And that all just depends on how much you're spending, right? And how good. But you can reverse engineer all this by figuring out how much does it cost per click on Google Ads? How much traffic is there? How much traffic potentially could I get from Google Ads? How much would that cost me? Boom. There you go. Now you know how much that keyword is worth. And if you're plumber in Plumber's Phoenix, you can go see what it is. How does it work out? What's the math? Is that being at the top of Plumber's Phoenix, is it worth $100,000 of traffic a month? Right? So if you're spending $20K on SEO and you're in the top 3, right? Is that worth it? Right? So 10K, 5K, whatever. But this is how you have to think about these things. And I think it also puts in perspective, that's probably around how you're going to know how much your competitors are spending, right? What's the potential? Well, if your competitor is spending $20,000 a month to be at the top of Google on Google Ads, you don't think they're going to spend 5 or 10 to try to stay there, to try to be there naturally, right? So it's a rough game starting fresh into some of these things. But if you have history and reviews and time, like I say, you probably have a lot of horsepower under that hood that if it can be put in the right direction, can really hit hard. So I don't think there's not a best thing. There's a best way to start. LSA ads first with Google SEO going, right? Lower tier SEO, but good work. Build on the SEO as it starts to work for you. Then if that whole engine is working, I would start testing some Google ads, testing some Facebook ads, see how they go. They're not working well, put it off for a couple months. Come back to it. Try it again. But I think it's more for me with Google ads and Facebook ads, a test this, see if you can figure it out, maybe take a step back, come back, do it again until you figure it out. Because it's more like a problem you have to solve than it is a yes or a no, unless you're in one of those really, really small ticket businesses, then I get it. So I think look to the future, always consider where are you trying to get to, and how do you solve these marketing problems as the best business? If you don't have the right follow-up, you start doing some Google ads, no one's calling it, you aren't getting the estimates as a percentage. That's why you need to know your numbers. Okay? Take a step back. Solve that. Okay? How do we get more estimates out of our people? Why are we losing people? Okay, we got to solve that. Okay? Now we try Google ads, Facebook ads. Now we're following up, we're getting all these estimates, but they're not closing. Take a step back. We got a sales problem. We got to solve it. So your internal mechanisms have to be good enough to accept the positivity that comes from ads and SEO, right? So don't always blame the marketing funnel or the marketing channel for your woes. know your numbers, know your costs, know where you need to get to as far as your average ticket or lifetime value of a customer, and then work towards those, and then keep testing, keep testing, keep testing. All right, that's what I got for today. We will see you tomorrow.